Good morning, everybody. Let's just do a quick test here. If someone could chat me and let me know that you can hear me okay, that would be amazing. Oh, I'm getting some hellos, so that's good. Awesome. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate that. Okay, perfect. So today we're going to talk about getting started with emblems and patches. And there's a whole lot of information. We're going to kind of scratch the surface with regards to some of these and hopefully give you some really good starting points, jumping off points, and some ideas even. And thank you all, for spending this time with us to learn more about patches and talk about them. As you can see by the main slide that I have here, we have many different things that we're going to talk about. Flex style, three-dimensional embroidery patches, and leather patches as well. We're going to talk about heat application, some tips and tricks to help you with the application, with the ordering, with pricing even, to try to get some profitability for you or help increase your profitability. At any time during the webinar, if you would like to. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is one of the newer products that we offer here at Stahls. All of them are pretty as texture and dimension. It's great for promotional items. You can use it on hard goods as well as flat goods. Oh, looks like we're getting people saying they lost sound. Hold on a second. Weird. I'm just trying to see if we can get the sound back. Seems like there's a problem. Hold tight, everybody. Let's see. Oh, it looks like people are saying if they hit the reconnect button, it pops back up. Okay, reconnect works. Okay. Okay, someone said they can hear they reconnected. Perfect. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Awesome. Okay, yes, hitting the reconnect button works. Thank you. Hopefully we're good there. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but hopefully we can continue to roll on here. So back to flex style emblems. So flex style emblems, premium embossed emblems with unique cutting edge look. Perfect for promotional products, recognition, hard goods, corporate wear, and sports. So you can use flex style on all different kinds of things. It's available in various adhesive backings. So you have your pressure sensitive adhesive, which will work on your hard goods, as well as heat applied adhesive, which will work on your fabrics. So your polyesters, your cottons, your outerwear. It's great for promotional products, corporate recognition. There are a variety of finishes in FlexStyle, which is one of the amazing things about the FlexStyle product line, is that it's the same product, same concept, same technology, but you can achieve different finishes by using some of the different techniques that are available. So on this first slide here, we have many flat emblems. So flat is we have a textured, we have a dome, we have a bevel, and we have a flat. So the flat is in between the dome. It's not domed, so it doesn't have as much lift as the dome, but it still gives a raised, smooth surface. Flat is really amazing for, specifically, we see a lot of corporate logos in the flat. It's professional, but it still gives that depth and dimension. So that New York City that we're looking at actually has the New York, the text is raised. The black rectangle behind it is raised also, but the silver text is more raised than the other. So there still is some depth there and there is still some raise, but you don't get as much as you get with the doming. So it's really super professional. You get, like I said, a ton. We see a ton of corporate logos work really well with the flat. It also is not as heavy as the dome product, so it works really great when you're looking at, more thinner type fabrics. The next one that we're going to highlight is the beveled. So the beveled is different from the flat in that it literally has, or it comes to an edge or a point. So you can really see it on the lion's face, on the M. The M is a great example. So the bevel product is really great for thick, bold graphics. So the M, for instance, it looks really great with text, big, bold text, not thin, fine, frailing text, but big, bold text. So the 25 in anniversary, you can see there's a point on that 5. The M, you can see that there's a point. The lion looks amazing. It was just the right artwork with the right lines in order to get those beveled points on it. And the Boca Yacht and Boat Club definitely has some beveling to it. The beveling does absolutely look amazing. The one thing about the beveled is that the problem, not a problem, but a challenge is it doesn't look great with all artwork. So you just want to keep in mind that when you're thinking about bevel, you want to consider the artwork. So chunky, big, bold areas that we can put some beveling into, things that, have some points in them already, and the artwork lend really well to the bevel. The bevel is also one of the heaviest of the flex style emblems, so it's going to lend itself very well to accessories, caps, outerwear, heavier type garments. It's not going to bid well on performance wear or super light fabrics because the product is going to, it's kind of going to pull heavier on the garment. So it's almost going to like bend, if you will. So baseball caps are great for beveled. Again, these are all available in the heat applied and the pressure sensitive. They are also available in flat and metallic. So you can see the 25th anniversary, the M, the lion, these are metallic looks. But the Boca Yacht Club is more of a flat or a matte look. So full color, they're all CMYK printed. So you have full color range when you're talking about these. Okay. We'll go on to the textured. So the textured is one of the most popular and probably the beginning of the flex style line. And the amazing thing about the texture is that it's kind of hard to see here, but the textures are just, they're outstanding and they vary. So you have a variety of different textures that you can use. There's thousands of them. And sometimes the artists are developing textures for specific artwork. So we had one customer upload a golf ball and they literally dimpled the golf ball in the logo with like a golf ball effect on it. So footballs, can have football bumps on it, or basketballs, those sort of textures. So the artists really take the artwork that you give and they put a lot of thought into what textures they're going to put where and what they're going to make smooth, because sometimes they do create some smooth textures in order to give it some difference. The nice thing, or a really nice thing about the textured, is that it is the thinnest of the three. So it's going to hold the most detail. So if you have a client that needs floating text, they don't want an outline on it, or it's not a bold shield type logo, they want floating text, texture is going to be the way to go because it's going to hold the most detail as far as being able to have floating text. It's also available in metallics and flat finishes. That turtle, for instance, has a different texture almost in every one of those little segments or areas of that turtle, and you can't really see it, but and the texture is going to be the lightest. So for your performance wear, things that have a little bit of stretch in them, these emblems don't have much stretch in them, so you don't want to put them on, fitness wear, for instance, but things that do have some stretch in them, it's definitely going to be light. Still great on your caps, your polos, that sort of thing. It'll go on all those different things. So, and then the last, but not least of the flex style emblems is the 3-dimensional. So the dome. So the dome is different than the flat in that you can see when you're looking at the comparison, like the Jordan High, for instance, has a lot more lift to it than the flat version did. Than some of the flat ones. So it really does dome and go up and over and creates kind of an arc versus the flat that raises and then kind of like gets smashed, if you will. The dome is super popular we see a lot of sporting goods logos with it. It has a very, if you will, urban look or modern look to it. So we see a lot of sports logos in it. We see a lot of those types of clothing lines, a ton of metallic with dome. It looks great. And again, still available in matte and metallic as well as pressure sensitive versus heat applied. So it is available in all those different things. So there's 4 different finishes available: domed, flat, textured, and beveled. You have 2 different color availability. So you have metallic and matte, and then you have 2 different adhesive options. So you have a pressure sensitive adhesive that you can work on hard goods or non-apparel or non-textile items. And then you have a heat applied version that works on textile items. So there's definitely a huge array of different things that you can achieve with one product through the FlexStyle. So I'm going to show you our flip book, which this is a link that we can send and share with you that you can use to help with some marketing for your customers. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to go away from this for a second. And let's see. Okay, so you should be able to see our Stahls Flex Style flip book, and I'm going to flip through it. It's basically like a virtual book of Flex Style samples, and it really does show you some texture and dimension that you can't necessarily get with, always with like print media. So here's an example of a domed Hartford Medical Center. So it's a domed emblem in the corporate sort of space. And then you have the 25th anniversary, which is one of the other examples that we saw, and again, domed. We have a bison, which is again indicative of, like I said, the mascots or the sporting kind of world. And we have the textured. We have our very popular skull with all different kinds of texture and dimension in a metallic finish. So you've got some metallic silver in there, and you can see all the different textures. The American flag, just a very good example of different textures and how just changing the direction of the lines can create kind of a dimensional look in a metallic finish. The Florida State Basketball Championship, again, you can see in that basketball the texture in there, and it even has some shadowing to it from the skyline above or the banner above to give that kind of effect of a 3-dimensional. And again, that's part of all of the full color digital printing. Enlighten, Inspire, Re-Energize. This is a great example because it's simple text, big, bold, simple text. It's in a metallic, so it almost looks like chrome when you actually have a physical sample in your hand. But it has all different kinds of textures in it. All the different text is a different texture, so it gives some depth. And here's that baseball design that in the PowerPoint presentation you couldn't really see too much of the texture, but in the flip book you can see. So you can see, you know, the gold has that kind of like diamond plating look, but the player in the white has just some smooth lines to it. So still giving you dimension just by changing the textures in there. And then here's the other 25th anniversary edition. And the 25th anniversary is nice in the flip book because we show it in all different finishes so that you can compare what a dome versus a flat versus a, you know, beveled's going to look like. Okay, so here's the flat. Again, the 25th anniversary edition. You can kind of see it almost looks like it was domed and then smashed, I guess, if you will, or flattened. So it still has that depth, but not to the depth that the dome has. This is the golf design that was also on that PowerPoint slide when we talked about the flat. Very popular. This Texas, now if you notice, the Texas has some texture and some smooth areas. So if you have a client that wants a image that they want smooth and textured, you will request flat and you will tell us where you want texture, and the artist will add texture into those areas. So with the flat, you can do textured areas and smooth areas as well. And then the football, you can see the same thing with the football. So the little shield on the inside, that silver, has almost like a brick wall texture to it, but then the actual football itself has that nice smooth sort of finish. So that's another advantage to a flat emblem. And the New York City, which was an example on the PowerPoint. So, and then last, the beveled. So here's the lion, another example of the lion. And then the 25th anniversary, you can see the 5 and the 2 actually have like points on them in the center. And it gives you that beveled effect. And then this Boca Yacht Club and that M that we saw on the PowerPoint is a really great example of beveling, of how you can use that bevel and take advantage of that pyramid type effect. So that is the flip book, and we're gonna send that out to you. That'll be available to you to access later on. So if you want to, you know, screenshot some of that and use those as examples for your customers, it's a really great way to show them without having a physical sample necessarily, or a whole bunch of physical samples, what you can do with the FlexStyle product line. Okay, so let's go back to my presentation. Stop doing this, sorry. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we've talked about the variety of FlexStyle products and the availability. The next product that we're going to talk about is...
Hey, Allison?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we've got a lot of questions just in regards to the FlexStyle that maybe you could answer before we move on to patches.
Sure, absolutely, 100%. Do you want to read them to me, or you want me to just...
I can read them to you.
Perfect, go for it.
So Gail's asking, what artwork is needed for the beveled pieces?
So for all of the FlexStyle product line, we can use any artwork. It doesn't matter if it's raster or vector. We always prefer vector artwork because it's going to be best when we render it. But if you only have raster artwork, that's perfectly fine. The artists will apply beveled where they feel it necessary, or where they feel it lends itself well to the artwork. Keeping in mind, if you have a specific request, you can always tell us. Like, for that 25th anniversary, for instance, you could, in the note section when you upload, put, please try to bevel the 2.5 and leave the rest flat, like whatever. But we don't need any rendering that has textures or beveling in it. We just need a flat piece of standard art that you would use to order a transfer or any other custom product.
Michelle's asking about any special washing or drying instructions.
So anytime you have, this is going to hold true for any of the emblems that we have, we're going to recommend that you are delicate with it. We have wash tested them. They do last, industry standards. You're not going to get, wear out of them as far as like a work uniform supplier that's washing in bleach, 100 times a week or something. But, your standard washing instructions, I would recommend that if you dry them, you use a cold dryer. When you wash them, you use cold wash settings. Heat doesn't tend to be friendly. So we recommend cool as much as you can. And, anything that you would treat delicately, you should treat this delicately as well. But they do hold up very well if they're laundered appropriately.
Another question is just in regards to the sizing, the minimum and the maximum.
So the minimum sizing is 1/2 of an inch by 1/2 of an inch. Maximum sizing is 5 by 5. So, or like it's 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. But, as long as we've been doing this for the last probably year and 4 or 5 months, we've only done a very slight handful of logos over the 4-inch size. So it's typically very common with left chest sizing, sleeve, cap, like smaller area sizing. So, but you can go, like I said, as far as 5 3/4 by 5 3/4.
And then we have another question that came in from David, which you will probably get into when you talked about the pricing, but what is the minimum order quantity that makes financial sense?
So the minimum order quantity is 25 pieces. With the setup fees and everything, we find the really sweet spot is about 50. 100 is even better, but 50 is really where you're going to make the most of it. And we are going to talk a little bit when we get into some of the pricing and things about how to make the most of that 50 or 100 pieces by kind of combining sizes. So.
Great, we're all set, Allison.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to move on to patches, and we will come back to any questions that you have. So if you keep having questions, just keep typing them in, and my Deborah will help me out and call them out like she did this time if we get a lot of the same questions, and we'll still reconvene at the end. So let's talk about the other patches that we have. So patches in general are quickly becoming a huge trend to look out for. So Flex Style was this new dimensional idea that we took off with here at Stahls, and it just kept going. And if you go out in the marketplace today, you're going to see some high-end designer labels that are employing patches. And, what we used to know, or at least I did, I'll date myself a little bit, as children, as things that our moms used to elongate the life of our denim jeans, are becoming, very popular and trendy. And it's just like everything, what's old is new again, and that vintage look is kind of coming back. So we're offering a couple different ways for you to kind of get that vintage effect or that look in the patch and dimensional area. So we have the leather patches, which the leather patches currently is a genuine leather. So it is 100% leather that has an etching. So it has some raised areas, so dimensional areas to it. And it's really a contrast. So there's, where the etching is could be darker or lighter versus where the leather face is. So they are genuine leather. They are available in 3 different colors. You have a caramel, which is that top one. You have the taupe, which is that center mountain picture. And then you have the natural, which is the lower one. And these are on our website too, so you can see some of those different things. The leather is amazing on caps. We've seen huge influx of customers using it on caps, and not just your standard ball caps. We have customers using it on beanies or all different kinds of different headwear space. Very small images too. We're seeing a lot of the 1/2 of an inch or the 1 inch sizes, just little kind of almost like branding type patches in different areas. A few customers I've seen been using them on offset placements on hats. So to the bottom right of the front in a more trendy, inconspicuous area, sides and backs of caps as well. So we're seeing a lot of leather in the cap space. The leather is really great for outerwear also. So denim jackets or jacket type outerwear. They are, as far as washability goes, there is some wash durability to them. However, they are genuine leather. So you could expect warping or disformation of them just like you would if you washed, a leather jacket. So again, we're going to recommend that a gentle cycle, and I wouldn't use this on a uniform that's going to be washed 3 times a week because, that really isn't the space for it. But as far as laundering goes, you'll see some wear there, but definitely huge in headwear. 3D embroidery we'll talk about a little bit. So the 3-dimensional embroidery is exactly that. It's a dimensional patch. So it's a fabric backing with stitching, full detailed stitching. And then there is some foam used in there to create some dimension. Similar to, any of your puffy foam or your 3-dimensional foam that you do or you've seen in embroidery market space when someone's actually embroidering something. Similar idea. The difference here is that, again, it's going to have a heat seal backing or a pressure sensitive backing. So you can then heat apply it onto the fabric or stick it onto the different fabric. So that's where you're gonna see the 3D embroidery. Again, 3D embroidery is going to be really great with, again, we're talking kind of like that sports logos, things that have some dimension or some boldness to it. You're not going to get a ton of dimension if you have a super detailed landscape, for instance. You're going to lose some of that dimension with that. So we're seeing a lot of lettering, a lot of like interlocking lettering, or like crests or shield type things in the 3-dimensional embroidery. Leather is really great. I'm going to backtrack a little, I apologize, but leather is really great with geometric shapes. So you can see like this mountain, for instance, is kind of a shield shape. So shield shapes do really good with leather. Round, oval, diamond, rectangular shapes do really good with leather. If you just pick a shape or, kind of a shape to your logo, and then they etch the logo in it. That seems to be the popular application for the leather shapes. And then the embroidery patches is the last. And embroidery patches have been around forever, and again, making a huge comeback. We have embroidery patches that you can get, again, in pressure sensitive or heat applied. It's going to be a fabric backing that can be completely covered with direct embroidery stitching, or we can allow some of the fabric areas to show through, and we have different colors that will be available in the fabric backing. You're going to be able to get some nice detail with embroidery emblems as well, or embroidery patches. But you're going to want to, you have to keep in mind when you're talking about embroidery patches, like if you wouldn't direct embroider it because of gradients or shadings or super fine detail, you're not going to be able to achieve that sort of detail with an embroidery patch either. I mean, we can get some great detail, but you're still going to be kind of limited in that same idea. So there's other products that are available. CAD Prints Permatwill, for instance, that you could get a printed sort of woven look and hold a lot more detailed gradients and shadings and super fine text. So again, these are all going to be great. The embroidery's great on headwear, outerwear. Also, your sweatshirts, all those sort of things that you normally would see embroidery, all heat applied or pressure sensitive, so you can put them on hard goods as well. So do we have any questions about the patches that we talked about?
Yes, we do have a few questions, Allison.
Okay.
Okay. So one question from Dan: does the heat flatten on the 3D dimensional product?
So that's a great question. We're going to go over a video here in a minute on the flex style as far as application instructions go. So with the 3-dimensional embroidery, well, with all of these, we're always going to recommend heat application with bottom heat. So we're going to recommend the best way to heat apply these is with heat from the bottom. And if you can do that, and we'll talk about top heat, we'll talk about bottom heat, and we'll talk about a faux bottom heat application with the 3D, especially because just like you said, it could potentially flatten. In addition to that, there is a pad, a 3D embroidery pad similar to the flex style pad. It's a little thicker and denser that we're going to recommend that you use for application. And you're going to cover the 3-dimensional embroidery with this pad when you heat press it. And what it does is it's going to insulate that foam so that it doesn't get smashed from the temperature and the pressure of the heat press. So that's an accessory that you're going to want to have when ordering and heat pressing the 3D. So if you use that and you follow the instructions, you should not have any issues with the flattening of the foam.
What is the minimum and the turn times for the patches?
Okay, so flex style and leather and 3-dimensional embroidery are pretty much the same across the board as minimums and turn times. So your minimum is going to be 25 pieces. Your turn times is going to be 2 business days for proofing. You have the option to do a pre-production sample in the patches and the flex style. Pre-production samples should arrive within 3 business days if you do that after at the same time that you do the proof. You'll get a physical sample. The flex style physical samples, you get 5 pieces. With the embroidery samples or in the 3D and the leather, you get 1 physical sample to look at, test, make sure it's what you would like. Production is about 5 business days across the board. So after you get a physical sample, or if you choose not to get a physical sample, if you just get a proofing sample virtual and you decide to go to production, it's 5 business days. So, and then everything ships FedEx overnight. It's flat rate freight. So the flat rate freight is based on how many pieces you're getting. So if you're ordering 25, it'll be, let's say, $21, and it's a next day afternoon delivery service. So
asking about beanie application and how do you keep the beanie from stretching and melting when using these products?
So whenever you're heat applying anything onto a heat sensitive fabric, whether it's a beanie or, a high polyester content polo, we're going to recommend that you utilize lower heat, and we're going to try to drive the heats down. So you're going to increase your bottom temperature up to like 300, 320 and decrease your top temperature. And that should alleviate, especially when using some of these pads that we have, the flex style pad or the foam pad for the 3-dimensional embroidery, that will alleviate some of that heat driving through the top, which causes some of that. Always recommend testing first, just to make sure that you don't alter it too much. The other option that you have, and we do have some customers, especially with the leather, that are just sewing it. They're putting, a light stitch on it and stitching it to the fabric, especially in the beanie example.
Okay, just a couple more questions and then we'll keep moving. So
sure.
Mark asking, can the leather have a sim stitch edge effect?
Yeah, so we can, it wouldn't have a sim stitched edge, but we can add some stitching etching to it. So if you have a customer that wants a stitched edge, when you upload the artwork, you would just request that, and they will actually leave a little bit of a gap around like that mountain. There would be a gap around there, and all of the etching that I've seen with simulated stitching is a straight stitch. It's not a zigzag like the Sim Stitch has. Straight stitching seems to be the more popular in the leather patch application. I don't know that we couldn't do the other one, but the most popular one has been like a straight stitch. So that's just something you have to request, and we can definitely put that texture. We'll leave a little bit of a gap there.
Okay, so one more question about the embroidery patches.
Okay.
would it be all satin stitch style or a mix of satin and fill stitch? And then also, does it come with a marrow border?
So all of the embroidery patches have a marrowed border, everything, whether it has full direct embroidery in it or there's some fabric showing. So marrowed border always. As far as satin stitches and direct or fill stitching, that's going to depend on the artwork. So in the example of this Lou that we see on my screen right now, all the colors, that cyan color, the green, the pink, the yellow, the purple, that's all a fill stitch. And then the Lou itself is a satin stitch. So the digitizers, when they're setting this up, are going to use the stitching effect that's going to lend itself best to the artwork, just like, a regular digitizer would. So obviously satin stitches are going to be limited to, a certain thickness. We don't want them to get too thick because they're going to be susceptible to fraying and all that fun stuff. So that's all taken into mind, but that is at the digitizer's discrepancy. If you have a specific, obviously you can request it and we'll accommodate it as best as we can.
All right, that's it for now. We still have more, but we can wait till the end.
Okay, so let's talk about application. So like I said before, we're going to talk about the different ways to heat apply these, and then we'll watch a video that will highlight 2 of them, and I'll walk you through that a little bit. But one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to send out a poll right now, which I probably should have done before, but I'm going to send it out right now, and it's, do you currently use lower heat? So how many of you have the power platens or a heat press that heats from the bottom and the top, just kind of to get an idea of what we're talking about here. So when I spend some time talking about the heat applications, we can talk about what's going to be most indicative of our audience. That'd be great. So I'll give a few more seconds here for you guys to kind of answer. Okay, so I'm going to end this poll. Okay. So, and that's great. Thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time to answer. It looks like most of our audience does not have lower heat. So, we're gonna talk about the lower heat and the different options for heat application. So, there are 3 different ways to heat apply pretty much anything. You have lower heat. When we're talking about anything that has texture and dimension in the marketplace, we're always going to recommend that you heat apply with lower heat. And so what lower heat is that you have a standard heat press, has the top comes down and heat applies the transfer, and the bottom is not hot at all. It's just a standard rubber. It gets warm from the top temperature hitting it, but there's no heating element there. With lower heat, you are essentially having a heat press that either comes with heat already in the bottom, and then you would have 2 different temperature settings, one for the bottom heat and one for the top. Or you can buy attachments. We have power platens that you can purchase that fit a variety of different Stahls machines that come with a separate controller that you can control the temperature of the bottom. The advantages to lower heat are a variety, but the biggest ones are, number 1, when you are heat applying anything that has texture and dimensional emblems, instead of having to use a high temperature on the top and a longer dwell time that you're driving through, because you're going to drive through all the layers, the embroidery, the flex style, there's some depth and layers there. So instead of using that high heat, driving it through the layers in order to get an application, you're literally applying the heat to the adhesive side, which is where, the application takes place anyway. So essentially you're creating a heat sandwich. So you have top heat and bottom heat. In a case like flex style, it's like 300 on the bottom, 250 on the top, 200 on the top, 20 seconds. And so you have your bottom heat higher and your top heat lower. So it eliminates scorching that you could potentially have with high content polyester fibers or heat sensitive fabrics. It eliminates pressure issues that you may have because you're going from the adhesive side, and it gives a better bond. So by using lower heat, you're going to be able to decrease the amount of time that you spend in the application and decrease your temperatures. Anything that has texture and dimension, this is going to be the way to go if you can, if you have it available to you. We're going to recommend for best results that you use lower heat. For those that don't have lower heat, which is a lot of you, there is top heat applications. So we do not recommend the top heat applications for heat sensitive fabric. So if you have, you know, synthetics that are tri-blends, 100% polyesters that are indicative of scorching, we're not really going to want to use the top heat only. When you're using top heat with any of the embroidery or emblem applications, your heat's going to be at 365 or higher. Your dwell time is going to be in the 30-second range. And you're going to have to preheat your bottom platen, which we'll show you in the video. But getting the bottom platen hot is going to help the adhesive start moving toward the heat and give you a better bond. It can be done, but this is not going to be the preferred method because, when you get into that 365 and those long dwell times, you have the potential to scorch fabrics that are heat sensitive. And then the faux bottom heat is really, if you don't have a lower heated platen, it's really the way to go. It's a little bit more time consuming, but what we're going to recommend that you do is we're going to recommend that you tape your transfers on. So take your flex style, place it in your left chest area, and then you're literally going to turn it inside out, and you're going to heat it from the inside of the garment using your top heat on the adhesive side of the fabric. So you're going to mimic the idea of using bottom heat without having, a bottom heated platen. So best is going to be bottom heat, top and bottom heat. Faux bottom heat is going to be the second best. And then if none of that works or isn't available to you, then we're going to recommend that you use the top heat. So let's launch a video that we can show you what I'm talking about. This video is going to show you a couple different applications. I'm going to start it and the sound will be on. I'm going to turn the sound off and I'll kind of talk you through it. So let's start this and see what happens. Okay. All right, so here's our fun little Stahls, and there's some really cute music, nice music there that we have with our video. So how to apply flex style emblems with top heat. So we're going to show you if you're only using top heat. So the first thing that we're going to do is preheat the bottom platen for 20 to 30 seconds. And again, you want to drive that heat on that bottom pad. So we're going to load the garment and we're going to preheat the garment. So now by the time you're done preheating the bottom pad and preheating the garment, you're going to be at 40 seconds to a minute in preheat. So it's going to be nice and hot. You're going to do this the first time, and you're going to align your logo, and then this is the flex style pad that we recommend for heat applying flex style. And then you're going to place a cover sheet over it, the whole thing, and that's going to be to protect your garment always. And then we're going to do the actual heat application, and it's going to be 360, like I said, medium heat, and it's a cold peel, and we're going to do 21 seconds. And this is a light cotton that we're putting this on. This is a textured emblem. There is a clear carrier over the flex style, so we're going to let it cool. And if you're running production, you're going to just want to set these to the side and then come back and peel them later. But then when you peel it, you can see it's stuck. So here's the alternate method, or the faux method. So on this example, I'm using a 6x6 or a 4x4 lower heat or lower platen, interchangeable platen, just to get my design settled. I'm putting this on a sleeve. So what I did was I put the sleeve on the pad, and then I lined it up as to where it would be. And then you can see I taped it with our blue thermo tape, which is heat resistant. Notice I put the flex style pad on the bottom because I want the flex style pad facing the emblem because that's going to stop it from warping. And then I turned it inside out, and we heat applied from the bottom with the application, and again, a cold peel. So you're going to get a little bit more wear that way, it's going to be a little bit more because you're going to have to tape it in first and then heat press it. But it's going to definitely be better than just going the opposite direction. So let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Do we have any questions about heat?
Allison, just going through it real quick.
Yep.
Let's see. So if someone has a Fusion IQ, is it advisable to flip the item?
Yes, because with the Fusion IQ, if you don't have a power platen, you're gonna, which is not, compatible with the Fusion IQ, you're gonna want to, unless it's an air fusion, you're gonna want to, if you can, tape it and flip it and heat it from the adhesive side. Again, it's gonna take less time. You're gonna get a better bond, and you're gonna be able to eliminate scorching by doing it that way.
So people are asking for the video. They want to watch it again. So I'll make sure that I post it.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, that video is available on our website, and we absolutely will post that for you so that everyone has access to watch that again. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So let's talk about money saving tips. So we've talked about the different products that are available. We've talked about minimum order quantities. We've talked about lead times. We've talked about the best heat application. And any questions about any of this after, please contact our customer service team. They're here to help you and assist. They can answer all of your questions and assist you. But money saving tips. Number one money saving tip is use common sizes. So again, we talked about kind of that sweet spot for ordering 50 to 100 emblems. You want to use common sizes to achieve that. So a cap size graphic, a sleeve size graphic, a left chest size graphic are all very similar in size, 3.5 inches. You can get away with on those applications. So if you have that customer that comes to you and they want something done on a cap, but they only need 25, upsell them into a left chest application or a sleeve application, sell them another 25 pieces of a different product using the exact same design. So you can take advantage of the price breaks at the 50 or 100, as well as setup fees and so on and so forth. That's the first biggest tip that I can tell you is try to use sizes when you don't. I mean, if you have a customer come and say they need 200, then it doesn't matter. But when you only have that 25 or that less than 25 and you want to talk them up to the next price break to take advantage, some upselling there, use the same design, different sizes. I've seen people use them on cuffs, the locker patches in the back applications. So there's all different kinds of applications that you can use. That common kind of like left chest sizing fits a variety of different things. Adhesives. So we talked about having the availability of pressure sensitive adhesive as well as heat applied adhesive. Your heat applied adhesives are going to be applicable onto your fabrics or your textiles. Your pressure sensitive adhesives are going to be applicable onto your hard goods. So, cups or mugs, pad folios, those types of scenarios that we have. There is no additional setup costs for an adhesive change. So you're going to pay a setup fee for FlexStyle, for instance. It starts at $52. If you order 50 pieces in a heat applied and 50 pieces in a pressure sensitive, you're only going to pay one setup fee. So when you amortize that cost over 100 pieces, it's a lot less than when you amortize it over 25 or 50. So there is no additional setup fees for flipping between two different adhesives. So another way to kind of leverage that. Same thing with color changes. So color changes are going to be the same idea. If you have a design, for instance, like that beveled M, we'll talk about that. That was a blue metallic. Let's say that team that we were doing that for had a home and an away color, and one is blue and one is white. As long as the size and the effects of the artwork are not changing at all, there is no additional setup costs to do a color change. So if you have home and away, red on white, blue on white, blue, white, whatever, there are going to be no additional charges to do a color change. As far as pricing goes, the fees or the per piece costs are all associated with each design. So if you had a blue one and a white one, your price would be set on how many blue you order and how many white you order. We can't combine the colors to take advantage of the price break, but you can avoid additional setup fees with adhesive changes and color changes. So those are, like I said, the number one way to get the most out of it, money saving wise, is to use common sizes. And then the adhesives, the color changes, and then, like I said, the pricing. So those are the money saving tips that I have. Do we have any questions on that end of it?
Give me 1 second to look here, Allison.
No problem. We probably have, because it's Q&A time.
Give me 1 second. So the upsell example for caps, 2x2 and left chest 3.5 by 3.5, 25 of each of the same graphic. Is that considered 50 pieces or 2 orders of 25?
So the idea would be to use the same size on both. So if you use the same size, let's say 3x3 for a left chest and a cap, then it would be 50 pieces because you're using the same size. If the size is changing, if you're doing a 2x2 and a 3x3, then those are considered different designs. So then it wouldn't be considered 50, it'd be considered 25 and 25.
So Gail's asking you to explain again the difference about when you were talking about the white and blue change.
So in the example of the M, that beveled M that we saw, let's say we had a team that did home and away caps, for instance. They wanted M's blue 50 pieces and they want M's white 50 pieces. The money saving there is that we're not going to charge you to change the color. So there's not going to be an additional setup fee because there's a setup fee for every design. So we're going to treat the white M like a new design. So a blue design would be one, a white design would be the other, but we're not going to charge an additional setup fee. You can't, we don't combine them for the price breaks, but you don't have to pay an additional setup fee. I hope that clarifies that.
So Joe's asking for a sample price on one of the samples that we showed.
Yeah, so let me go. I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to go onto our website, and I'm going to show you our artwork uploader, and I'm going to show you how to get pricing so that you can go and see what we're talking about. So if you go onto our website, and this is going to be the fastest, easiest, quickest way for you to get sample pricing on anything custom related. So if you go onto our Stahls website, I'm going to start at the beginning just so that you can see. When you're on our main Stahls webpage, at the very top right-hand corner, you're going to see this artwork uploader. Click on this link. This is where everything that we do custom takes place. So anything that you do custom that you want to get to us is going to take place. And this is where you will upload your artwork and answer all the questions that we have related to uploading artwork. You do not have to upload artwork to get a price quote. So the fastest way to do it is go to this custom logo cost estimator. So if you click on this, it's going to ask you what product are you looking for. So we'll start with Flex Style. So I'm going to choose Flex Style by Stahls. The next thing it's going to ask me is what finish am I looking for? What product? So is it heat applied, pressure sensitive, dome, textured, beveled? Anytime you're using our upload and you need more information about something, you can hover over this little eye, this information, and it will pop out an overlay that tells you what it is. So if you don't remember what something is, this is a quick way to do it. But all these prices are exactly the same. So in this case, it's not going to matter what effect I choose, but we're going to choose Dome Heat Applied Emblem. It's going to ask us what fabric we're putting it on. It's going to ask us if it's dark or light colored. It's going to ask us if we want matte or metallic. None of this changes the pricing at all. So you want to answer it as much as you know when you're doing this, so that if you do decide to proceed and upload artwork, you don't have to go back and change your choices, but it's not necessary for pricing. Then it's going to ask you for a size. So let's use the 3x3 example. Put 3x3. It's going to give me a price quote. And this is a great price quote, except I'm logged into my personal, and so I don't get charged anything because I'm an employee. So I apologize for that. But let's get into, let me see if I can log into a customer's account or a example customer account and see if I can make that work. Give me 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. I forgot I was logged in, but that's going to be the fastest way for you to get a an example of pricing. Sorry. Okay. Give me 1 second. And you can do all of, like I said, any of our custom products you can do that way. All right. I'm trying one login I have. Okay, sorry about that. Just give me 1 more second. I'll get it. Okay, 1 second. Still trying, sorry. I forgot about that one aspect of it. Okay, let me try to show you this screen. And this will make more sense and give you some real world examples. Sorry about that. Let's see. Video. Okay, so you should see this example. So we're going to choose Flex Style, and we're going to choose the dome again, and we're going to choose the colors and the finishes. And then when we put the 3x3 in here, we should get some real life pricing this time. Thank you for hanging on for those of you that did. So here you go. So here's the Flex Style in a 3x3 example. The upload is always going to give you price quotes up to 10,000 pieces, just so that you can take advantage of the price breaks. So you can see there's going to be a $52 setup fee, and that's a one-time fee. So once you pay it, as long as you don't change anything, you won't have to pay it again for reorders or not. And then you can see 25 to 50 pieces is going to be $7.39 each. 50 to 99 pieces is going to be $5.06 each. So there's a substantial price difference between 25 and 50. There's even another substantial price difference between 50 and 100. So you can see where I said 50's kind of the good sweet spot, 100's even better. When you're talking about flex style. Now, if you change the size, and it's amazing sometimes how much of a small size change can make a difference in pricing, because it put it in a different pricing category. So that one didn't. But let's see if we do 2.5 by 2.5, and you can, when you're in the upload, you can do this. So you can see, so 2.5 by 2.5, so 1/2 inch each way brought your pricing down to 5.71. I mean, you can do this within tenths of an inch and see what the difference is, and it's virtual, so it will keep going and changing as you do it. So, but this is a great example of how to use the upload to get pricing, to get some sort of idea. And then if we go and look at like 3-dimensional embroidery, for instance, we can do that example. So if I go to custom cost estimator, the same as before, and we do the 3D embroidery, and we choose heat applied or pressure sensitive, again, it's going to ask us the types. Notice there is up to 6 thread colors available. It doesn't matter how many thread colors you get. The price is the same whether you get 1 color or 6. It's irrelevant. But we're going to ask it. And if we did a 3x3, for instance, we'll get a price quote here. So notice 3x3, you're going to have your same $52 setup. And then your pricing is $7.95, $5.31. Again, there's a substantial price difference between 25 and 50, and another substantial price difference between 50 and 100. So it's always going to benefit you, obviously, to get more. And if we go down to 2.5 by 2.5, let's say, you can see how that price changes. So $663, $442. So you can see. So the upload cost estimator is going to be the best way to get pricing for products. It's published on our catalog. We have on our website pricing published, but it's going to be definitely the best way to get pricing for exactly what it is that you need, a quick way to do it. And you can see it only takes a couple of different steps. So are there any other questions that we need to address?
Yes, there's a few more, Allison.
Okay.
One, are there any items that pressure sensitive does not work on?
So pressure sensitive is going to be recommended for hard, smooth surfaces. So flat, hard and smooth are the two biggest things. So porous materials, like wood grain, that sort of thing, if you want to think about it, I wouldn't recommend. Plastic, metal, glass. As far as flex style emblems and mugs go, it is top rack dishwasher safe. I would not say that about leather or embroidered emblems because, they're a fabric or a leather, but the flex style is top rack dishwasher safe for washability. Anything else?
Not sure if this was already answered, but someone wants to know if we supply the digitized file to sew the patches on, if they chose to go that route.
We do not supply the digitized file to sew the patches on. That's a great question. And, never say never, but as of right now, that's not a current offering that we offer. If you need a product or you're looking for a product to sew on, we do have a CAD Prints Permatwill that you can order. It's a printed fabric twill, so there's no stitching involved, and we can supply you with a sew file that will marrow or stitch all the way around that edge, so you could just stitch it onto the garment. Most embroidered patches, leather and that are simple designs, so most customers don't take advantage or don't need to take advantage of the digitizing. They'll just either digitize it themselves, or a lot of them are using like hand sewing methods to adhere them because they're putting just a running stitch around the edge. But that's definitely something that we can take into consideration. Any other questions?
Is the art setup the same as a dye charge, or are they two separate charges?
There is an art setup charge. That's it. There's no dye charge. There's a $52 setup fee for the flex style. I'm assuming that they're talking about. The only other fee that you may encounter besides the setup fee is if you want the pre-production sample. So if you choose to go with the pre-production sample, it's $25 to get the physical pre-production sample mailed to you. But you don't have to go that route. So there is no additional charges besides the per piece price. Anything else?
Scrolling through, I think we've covered most of it. Everything else might be link related. We can send links to.
Stacy, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
It's okay. I said everything else might be more link related, and we can send those links out.
Okay, so we're going to send out the link to the flip book. We're going to send out the link to the video. I have a couple more quick polls. If you have a second, I'll just launch them. And we did the lower heat. Let's find out how many of you are using patches currently in your business at all. And then I'm going to send you a link to actually request a sample of the different patches as we wrap up. So I'm going to give a few more minutes just to kind of get a feel for. Okay, perfect. I'm going to end this poll. So I would like to thank everyone for coming. If I did not answer your question, I apologize. Hopefully some of the links that we send and the different samples that we have are available will help you. Again, our customer service team is available to assist. So if you have any questions that you need answered or go unanswered, just give us a call. And lastly, we have this sample request for you. So if you look on your screen, you can request an emblem or patch sample, and it says, please allow 5 to 7 business days to receive your sample. So you can request a sample of the flex style, of the leather, of the 3D, of all of them, and we'll mail them out to you. So the samples are a nice visual sample. There's some great examples of the different finishes and the different products that we have that are on a card, so that you don't have to be able to heat apply them to show them to customers. So we're going to go ahead and offer that to you. So you can click on that and you'll be able to fill in the information and request your sample. And then we're going to send out the links, like I said, and I think we are good. Stacy, is there anything else that I'm missing?
I don't believe so. I think it's going to come through with the offer. So I think we're good.
Perfect. So thank you everyone for attending and spending time with me today to learn more about this, and definitely hit us up with any of the questions that you have and make sure to request your sample.